Namaste. The chosen prayer is a prayer written by the mother on March 20, 1914. Just a few more days left for her to reach Pondicherry to meet the Golden Master. Now, the prayer here is a very interesting prayer, not a very long prayer, but here in this prayer, which my limited mind gave the title to crystallize, Mother is revealing yet another secret of spiritual life, and that is that one needs to become an individual first, and then only one can surrender. So, first of all, it is essential, rather, it is indispensable to form this individuality, this individual being, and the next step is to surrender. Only when I am a master of myself can I do this. You cannot surrender what is not yours. You can only surrender what belongs to you, what you have worked for, what you can offer on your own, having accumulated it along the way on your own. Something that belongs to others, we cannot surrender. That is not surrender. Surrender is of what we are, what I have made of myself. And so, what is this step of individualizing, or what is this crystallization that the mother is talking of in this prayer is that yes, one needs to become an individual. It is a process, it is a step. It means that when we begin to make choices, when we begin to choose, only when I can say that yes, this is what I want, this is what I accept, this is where I want to go, this is where I need to take the next leap towards the higher truth which I am seeking, only then I can say that yes, I have crystallized myself. I have become an individual being. Right now, our choices are made largely by societal norms, conventions, what has been fed into us in the name of traditions, culture, lifestyles, what people believe of us, what is expected of us, name, fame, business card. Our choices are largely made based on these. The day we begin to choose, the day I can say, I don't want any of this, I want something higher. I want higher truth. I am not satisfied with what I have done till now. Have I reached that stage when I can say that? And when I can offer this I, this individual being, at thy lotus feet and say, let there be only thy I. So this is the point of crystallization that the mother is talking of. It is still the ego self, no doubt. But yes, this ego self, this ego individuality is very much a preparation. It is a process that we need to go through to become an individual, and it is one step which also puts us on the spiritual path. Without this, we are just an amorphous mass. So the prayer reveals to us the effort that goes on into individualization and its subsequent surrender. The process of crystallization is important to grow distinct, to come to a stage where one can say, Ma, I am a conscious being. Ma, I am here. All that I am, all that I have done, I offer myself to thee. Let thy I work through me. So the prayer, let us read the prayer. March 20, 1914. Thou art consciousness and light. Thou art peace in the depth of all things. The divine love that transfigures, the knowledge that triumphs over darkness. To feel thee and aspire to thee, one should have emerged from the immense sea of the subconscient. One should have begun to crystallize, to grow distinct, so as to know oneself, and then give oneself as that alone which is its own master can do. And what effort and struggle it takes to attain this crystallization, to emerge from the amorphous state of the environment, and how much more effort and struggle yet to give oneself, to surrender once the individuality has been formed. Few beings consent willingly to make this effort. So life, with its brutal, unforeseen events, obliges men to make it unintentionally, for they cannot do otherwise. And little by little, thy work is accomplished despite all obstacles. In the first part of the prayer, where the mother is talking about what the divine is. Thou, divine, thou art consciousness and light. Thou art peace in the depth of all things. There is peace in everything. It is a myth that there is no peace anywhere. In fact, it is everywhere. Even in the eye of the storm, there is a part which is peaceful. So this divine peace is there everywhere. The mother, I think it was Sri Aurobindo who said, "Thy peace, O Lord, a boon within to keep." A boon within to keep in everything. Not only this and that, not only in a peaceful environment, it is everywhere. One needs to seek that. And peace is the basis of yoga. Without it, nothing can proceed. So the Lord is that divine peace that puts us on the path. Thou art peace in the depth of all things. So the divine is the peace. He's everything. He's the peace. The divine love that transfigures. Without the touch of this divine love, nothing can work. We cannot move forward. No union is possible without that. And the moment it touches you, the love, gone will be all shackles of ego, gone will be all shackles, obstacles, anything on the path. Love is that most potent power, the most powerful power. The knowledge that triumphs over darkness. So it is with Him. When love touches you, all that you need to know will come to you, some way or the other. The mother will do it. She is the one who is doing sadhana, no? So she is the peace, she is the knowledge, she is the consciousness. And she again tells us that again and again in most of our prayers we will find that somewhere or the other there is this touch of the divine love that she carries. And she says, this love will dissolve everything. And ultimately, the being that you call yourself, the individual that you have made of yourself, will widen, will become vast. So much so that the ego circle, the boundaries of the ego circle will collapse. There will be no boundaries between you and anybody else or anything in the creation. She goes on to say, and when these ego barriers, when these ego boundaries collapse, then only can true surrender come. To feel thee and aspire to thee, one should have emerged from the immense sea of the subconscient. One should have begun to crystallize, to grow distinct, so as to know oneself, and then give oneself as that alone which is its own master can do. Only a master who knows himself, who knows what he is made up of, what he wants, can do that. Right now, we are seeped too much into the pell-mell of the subconscious. All impulses, all visions, all feelings, all thoughts, all desires, anything that surrounds us is actually coming from the subconscious. The subconscious is actually the level of consciousness between the dark inconscious and the superconscious. The movement is from the inconscient to the superconscious. And yes, we have come to a stage where we are at that middle rung, the subconscious, but we need to emerge from that as distinct individuals. Dynamic spirituality is all about moving from the lower consciousness to the higher consciousness. Or one can say, to move from this subconscious to the luminous consciousness. And this is our main business. To turn human nature into divine nature. Today, there is so much of a talk about a tiny, puny virus going all over the place, taking different forms. Gone is COVID, yet time and time again, we hear this, another virus coming up. And then WHO gives guidelines. Then we say, okay, back to masks. Then we say, okay, now WHO has said no mask, or some European country will say, no, it's safe, you can go without masks, so we all give up our masks. But what is this thing that is affecting us? It is the environment, it is the subconscious, the impulses, the thoughts, the kind of, you can say, the rapid fire, uncontrolled, you can say, tornadoes of little thought processes stemming in one country, reaching another country, yet another country. And we are just getting submerged into all that. Now, it is, many years back, I had seen a movie, and I was reminded of that, where this man actually is selling the Qutub Minar and the Taj Mahal to a foreigner. So it was just too funny. I was reminded of that. How can you sell a plot of land that does not belong to you? I mean, you take somebody else's money, put it in the purse and give that purse to another person. Is it helping you or that person? Or it's not yours. And it is so absurd that you take somebody's thing and you give it to... So what I have procured for myself, what I have worked, I have put my toil and energy into it. I have grown into this being. Yes, that I can give. Once a person had approached Mother Teresa, a very rich man, millionaire, and he goes and brags in front of Mother Teresa, I have so much of money, you tell me how much you want for your mission. Mother Teresa, she replied very humbly, she says, I don't want all that money. A lot of other people's toils have gone into it. If you can, do something. The next time you go to buy a dress, a shirt, or a suit for yourself, don't buy that. Give me that money. Because that you were wanting for yourself, and that you offer. Such humility. So when you have become that individual, to this point of crystallization, where you can say, yes, I want a higher truth. You are seeking a higher truth now. You are not satisfied with whatever you have made of yourself. Then is the time when we actually get ready for surrender. You are ready to surrender and offer this very individuality at the lotus feet of the mother. So your ego self actually helps you grow spiritually, isn't it? It is this individuality, this ego self, which has actually got you at the doorstep of spirituality, where you are seeking something higher than what you have become. If you don't become that, if it is still an amorphous mass and it getting rattled and moved and cluttered with everything around it, the environment, all that people are saying, then not yet ready for surrender. Something more needs to be done in order to crystallize to that point. So it helps you to reach a point where you feel a restlessness, you feel a stifling, एक छटपटाहट होने लगती है, that you want to reach out, and there is a restlessness. All yogis go through this. And It is indicative that now the ego self needs to be widened, the circle of ego needs to widen, all boundaries need to collapse. A person who is living in the amorphous mass of, in the subconscious largely, doesn't feel this restlessness. For he has found his own way to navigate through this subconscious way, but he's still in the subconscious realm. And without any feeling or urge to move higher. But the one who has reached this point of crystallization will feel the restlessness, will feel this stifling. And that is the point we all need to move forward to. And she goes on to say, and is this easy? She says, and what effort and struggle it takes to attain this crystallization. Surrender becomes very easy, but first this step. To crystallize requires a lot of effort, and maybe surrender is the easier part after this. But without this, you can't even reach to that surrender level. We all adopt, or are, you can say, ways and means of living we are born into. The religion we follow, the way of life, customs and traditions, habits, conventions, social norms. But have we chosen these? Were we given a chance to choose these? No. And we have all grown up like that. So, but when we consciously make a choice to break free of these norms, these habits, these conventions, towards something higher, we begin to truly crystallize. And this breaking off, this tearing away from all that is binding us, this opposition, there's a strong opposition from everywhere. And interestingly, the moment you decide to let go of this individuality and offer it to the divine, you will find more pell-mell happens, more opposition comes. Such opposition will come from directions where you could never imagine. And you could never imagine, okay, this was there in me still. Because all the parts of the being do not get ready all at once. It takes time for all parts of the being to centralize around an idea, harmonize around it. And the divine is that idea. Our soul is that idea. So it takes time for everything to get around to this point. To emerge, she says, the mother says, to emerge from the amorphous state of the environment. Yes, environment is amorphous. And it is, you can say it is a heterogeneous mixture of all kinds of things. And interestingly, you must have noticed that if there is a fight going on between two people, and you also start entering because one of them is your friend, you also catch that anger. And you also get agitated. You go to the marketplace not with the intention of buying anything other than potatoes. What do you end up? You end up buying so much that you don't even need it. What has happened? What happens there because the marketplace is a buzzing place with all vital mixtures, buying, selling, wanting, desires, attractions, so many things. You catch that. Vital is like that. It sees you, it catches you and pulls it. Anger is like that. They say, no, koile ki dalali mein haath kala karna. Somebody else's problem, you get into it, you catch it. You catch their problems also. So that is why Mother has always said that step back. And she has also said that there is no need to go on discussing morbid things, depressive things, oppressive things, on and on. You know, we are actually in the habit, even if we go to the pathologist and get a small test done, sugar ka test karaya, but we rant and rave about it so much, as if something so startlingly, something big, some calamity has really fallen on us. So we spice it up and we make it bigger and bigger. And that is why the environment has become a place, such an amorphous place. Nowhere is there a getaway, except if you know what you want, you step back, you look at things very starkly as they are and as you are. Then you can also, the moment you have individualized, that self is there with you, that being is there within you, you will be able to identify all these things. And that is why the restlessness will come. Because you are attracted to something that you don't want. And there are other conventions, there are other things which are drawing you to that. And many times you may say that, oh, my parents wanted me to do this, my parents wanted me to get married to this girl. And no, that's not. It's because you had not individualized yourself. And then there is a blame game which starts. I did it, and there is a reasoning which starts, reverse reasoning that starts. That I did it because of this. And you start justifying all that is pulling you behind. But there is only one justification for moving forward, that you want to move forward. The mother goes on to say, and how much more effort and struggle yet to give oneself. Yes, you have become the individual being. And now, the challenge. To surrender once the individuality has been formed. Few beings consent willingly to make this effort. So life, with its brutal, unforeseen events, obliges men to make it unintentionally, for they cannot do otherwise. Most people, in fact all of us, we undergo this kind of a thing, where we are seeking some higher truth and something draws us back. And that is the challenge, which in the weighing balance, if you put, what is that? Initially, there will be a kind of a justification that we will give to all that will not make us surrender. One movie, Saath Saath in Hindi, where the protagonist is a very sincere, very, you can say, ethical person. And he wants to lead his life like that. He wants to do good. He is seeking a higher truth. But somewhere along the line, he forgets that. And he gets into deceit and cheating and bribing and all these things. Now his wife, she doesn't want him to go astray like this. So she reminds him, you started with a mission. You are getting waylaid. So he says, ये दुनिया मैंने थोड़ी ना बनाई है. जो इसके नियम है वो मैं तो वही कर रहा हूँ जो सारे करते हैं. So we keep on giving ourselves justifications. Our habits, we find it very difficult to give up our habits, because we feel that this is time and again, even if when you try to come out of that habit. And that is why I think that Robin Sharma, the 21 days practice, what you do for 21 days becomes a habit. So you can change. There are ways where you can change it and adopt new habits. And one habit strongly, which the mother recommended again and again, is step back. Whenever you want to do something, anything, you want to speak, step back. You want to embark on a journey, step back. So this is, you can say, one of the secrets one can apply in daily life. And the ego does have a very, very significant role to play in our life, but it also has its limitations. And these limitations then become a barrier. So, yes, they have, the human being is a, you can say, transitional being, but we have reached a stage in evolution where we have been given a strong mind, where we can utilize this mind. And it also helps us in becoming conscious of whatever. We are the only conscious beings right now. Animals don't have this. Even other creatures don't have this. And yes, man has been given this privilege to move towards higher truths and consciously. So this individual self, at this point when you have crystallized, starts getting moved by aspiration for something higher. And yes, the ego self has been given to us for self-preservation. Roti kapda makan. If I am not an individual, and how will I even procure food for myself? If I am not an individual, how will I also move towards, you can say, my own needs or protect myself from the enemies? So running away from the enemy, this tendency is given to me. It's given to me. So this is I-ness. I know if I want something, I can go and procure it. I-ness. I know these people belong to me. These are my things. I need to take care of them. This is my-ness. So ego was necessary to create a separativeness from the other individual so that you can function in this given environment. So individualization is also a kind of a division. And the Lord wanted it to be like this. Because otherwise, how will you even offer yourself? So, separativeness is necessary, and it is very division based. It is based on division. It divides, it separates. Why? Because there is a purpose in it. Now, separativeness leads to acquisition. Mera, I want this, mine, I need this is useful for me, I need it. Even the yogic path or the processes, I need this literature, I need this satsang, I need whatever, but I need to, because I'm feeling that urge to move higher. So, more towards higher truths of existence when we start moving. Now, there is a contradiction. Ego divides, there is a separativeness. When we move towards a higher truth means it will move towards oneness. It will move towards that widening of the consciousness. And the same consciousness, it is there in you, me, every other. It is there in all creatures. It is there even in immaterial objects, non-material objects. So, one can say that ego divides, there is a separativeness. But the higher truths which we are drawn towards, once we have crystallized, we have come to this point, they move towards union, they move towards oneness. So on one side there is division, and on the other side there is oneness. There is a contradiction. Separativeness leads to acquisition, but moving towards higher truths, it leads to oneness. So there are many battles now, division versus oneness, acquisition versus expansion. You accumulate, but then the contrary to that is the expansion, the widening. So, in a nutshell, getting versus giving. And at this point, we start also realizing, we start only because the divine hand is there. Once you open to these higher truths, the love, you start opening to the love of the divine. And this is the biggest blessing that one can get, the love. And then it leads to widening. So separation is actually the truth of a lower level, whereas oneness is the truth of a higher level. And the growth of consciousness is always from separation to oneness. So a person feels the need to move away from the ego-driven behavior to love-driven behavior. And that is what the mother is explaining. This transition is not easy. One has to go through a lot of going back and forth, falling. And that is why the Vedic rishis have talked of these hills, climbing summits, then going down, yet climbing another summit, yet higher summit, yet higher summit. And then finally you reach a stage where there is nothing, no summit. You have to take that plunge. You have to jump. It is not also easy because we are so comfort driven. We have become so cocooned in this life that I lead, or we are happy with mere rituals. We are always seeking koi mantra de do. And when people would go to Pondicherry and ask, Mother, give us a mantra. Somebody asked Sri Aurobindo that, does Mother give mantra? And he says, Mother does not give mantra. She gives work. And there are so many incidences, so many examples, beautiful examples, how the devotees, how the disciples went to Pondicherry and they were given a job which they could not even imagine. Rishabh Chandji, an erudite scholar, whom the mother only asked, you write about Sri Aurobindo's life before he came to Pondicherry. She entrusted him this. But when he joined the ashram, when he came to the mother sent him to the furniture department, where he was asked to remove, to disinfect the wood and all because of the ticks and mites which are there. He being a Jain, he complained to Sri Aurobindo and he said, I think the mother doesn't know that I am a Jain. I can't kill anything. Sri Aurobindo very firmly he said, do the work that the mother has given you. So it was mother's way of breaking or widening this ego circle which was there. I have studied for so long. I am a scholar. I have done PhD. Now I have to let go of everything and tell you that I know nothing. So difficult, no? So, and the mother says, and the divine will, you go to the divine and say, सब कुछ छोड़ दूँ. ये तो, I did not think like that. Why did I struggle so much? Why did I read so much? Why did I, go through so many, yogic camps and so many things? Now you are asking me to let go of everything. The divine will say, yes, let go. Because for the person who says, and to the person who says, Ma, here I am, whatever I am, let there be only thy eye, opens the floodgates of wideness, expansion, and she will say, yes, come. Now you are ready for the surrender. And this is when surrender truly begins. This is when true life begins. The ego dissolves and love takes its place. Yesterday I came across a very interesting read. It's in Hindi. Bulle Shah, a Sufi mystic, he tells his Pir Baba, बुल्ले शाह बाबा ने अपने पीर से कहा, मुझे खुदा से मिला दो. पीर शाह इनायत ने जवाब दिया, पहले खुद को भुला दो. So he says that I want to meet the Lord, So he says, first to meet the Lord you have to forget yourself. Give up what you have. So how to do this? How does one does this? Giving up the ego and then moving towards surrender. We have been blessed in our life with good fortune as well as misfortune. Even the misfortune is a blessing. So we have both of that in our lives. And they serve this purpose of bringing us out when we have individualized this ego self, and when it is time for you to take the plunge and offer everything, these are the things which will help. And that is why they are there. If one has crystallized, one immediately sees the good fortune that one is surrounded with. Good relationships, good house, good job, everything, all comforts of life given to you, possessions, whatever it is, whatever you need. You want to read a book, you want to find more on the path, everything comes your way. And you realize this good fortune. And then you feel an immense sense of gratitude. And this is one of the signs which will immediately tell you, yes, your crystallization is reaching a point when we start feeling this gratitude. And so when we feel this gratitude in us, then we also want to share and we also want to give to others who don't have these things. And it is because you feel this oneness. Lord has given you. They are also Lord's children. They also need it. I have that, maybe I am just the channel for putting all these things or bringing all these things to those who don't need it. And when one is in misfortune, what does one do? There is a sense of helplessness. Why this has happened? Oh my God, Lord, I am seeking you, and now I find so many obstacles. I did not realize every little thing me in is rebelling. It wants to go back to those comfort. And also, when one is feeling helpless, one realizes, if this crystallization is moving forward, one will realize that there are more who are in much worse state than I am. And the person is likely to realize also, will be grateful for even the little things that he has. And this helplessness will help him to seek something higher, because he will turn to a higher power, and he will also know that there are others who are helping him, and he would do the same. There is a beautiful song in Hindi, तुम बेसहारा हो तो किसी का सहारा बनो, तुमको अपने आप ही सहारा मिल जाएगा. So if you are helpless, you help others, and invariably you will get help. So he also realizes, so good fortune and bad fortune or misfortune, they have been given to us. And they have been given to us so that this crystallization can go on very smoothly. And love is, when love touches you, when you have crystallized and the love touches you, you start realizing that love is actually not a disappearance of the ego. It is actually widening of the ego circle, so that, there are a teenager falls in love. Okay, so he's very self-centered, he falls in love and he gets married to his girlfriend. Now there are two people in his circle. Then the family comes, the circle is widening. And then the neighbors, then the country, then groups, cross-country. And the circle goes on widening and widening and widening. Finally, everybody is inside that circle. So where is the boundary? There is no boundary then. So all separative boundaries, then they collapse. A famous psychiatrist, Morgan Scott Peck, he made a very interesting observation. And he said, why does ego or this individual self, individualizing, need to start in childhood? It starts in childhood because the child is not born with a strong mind. It develops later on. And the ego self develops. Just as the child starts crying, he calls mommy, starts crying, mommy comes running. The child knows that every time I cry, mommy will come to me. Okay? So that's where the ego seeds are first, you can say, sown. And when the child starts going to the school, then mommy will say, beta, this is your book, this is your pencil, this is your water bottle. Keep it carefully, these belong to you. Don't make sure that you bring them back, they are yours. So from I-ness, that this is my mommy, my father, if I need this, I can get it in this way, that is I-ness. And the my-ness, these things belong to me. So possessions, attachments to things start developing. So Morgan Scott, he says that why does ego need to be developed in childhood? And then he goes on to say that how can you break a wall? Ultimately, we have to move to, if we want to move forward to the spiritual life, we have to reach to this point where we are an individual and we have to surrender. But how can you break a wall which has not even been constructed, he says. So true, no? So building the wall comes first, because building the wall is serving a very big purpose in life. And when do we break this wall? When do we say, okay, now, when do we press the trigger for that? Is when we find that further growth of consciousness is getting limited. It is baffling me, I cannot proceed. When you feel this restlessness, this stifling, this is the time to let go of that self and take that plunge into the lap of the Divine Mother. There is an interesting story. There is a king who asks 3 questions. What is the best time? Who is the most important person? And what is the best thing to do? Somehow these questions are moving on in his mind. And of course, his subjects and ministers and all, they try to please him and they give him all sorts of answers. What is the best time? So somebody said Brahma Muhurta, sunrise, before sunrise. It's a time when you go to sleep. Different sorts of answers come to him. And who is the most important person is the second question. So somebody will say, no, your guru or the Lord or your child or your mother. So they kept on giving him all sorts of answers. And the third question, what is the best thing to do? So somebody said, you donate, daan kijiye, you pray, you organize a ceremony where poor people will be fed. So all these things. The king was not satisfied with all these answers. Finally, he comes across a person, an enlightened soul, of course, and he says, he gives him the answer. What is the best time? He says, now. Who is the most important person? The person in front of you. And what is the best thing to do? What you can do for the person in front of you. So, and the mother says, little by little, the work is accomplished despite all obstacles. Yes, this is an assurance. But this is also a warning in the sense that if you don't make choices in life, You will be posed with situations, you will be brought to a situation where you will be compelled to make a choice. So life comes with these brutal events. So for some who have taken this plunge, who do it readily, and are ready to, break this wall, come what may, for them it is, yes, easy. The work will anyway go on, because it is her work. Nothing will stop. But yes, you can become a collaborator. And what happens when you become a collaborator? Yes, the divine work will go through you. And what is the fringe benefit? You get immense joy. That is the fringe benefit. And so, when life comes with its brutalities, and when the world is opposing, because you want to take that plunge, and when there is opposition all around, feel happy. Like Jalaluddin Rumi, his famous quote, "What hurts you blesses you." And one must always remember that it takes for the fossilized plants and trees to be buried in the soil over billions of years under extreme conditions of pressure and temperature to turn into gems, to turn into diamonds. So, anyway, the work will go on, but yes, we can expedite it for ourselves by becoming collaborators, by consenting, by opening to the Divine Mother. So she says, no, despite all obstacles, thy work will be accomplished. Because we have reached the stage, they have opened the floodgates for us. They have opened that, you can say, the gates to that splendor, both Mother and Sri Aurobindo. They opened those gates for us. And Savitri and the prayers and meditations written by the Mother, one can say that in the golden pages of these divine scriptures opens the diamond gates of spirituality, of the supramental. Let us read this prayer once more. March 20, 1914. Thou art consciousness and light. Thou art peace in the depths of all things. The divine love that transfigures. The knowledge that triumphs over darkness. To feel thee and aspire to thee, one should have emerged from the immense sea of the subconscient. One should have begun to crystallize, to grow distinct so as to know oneself, and then give oneself as that alone which is its own master can do. And what effort and struggle it takes to attain this crystallization, to emerge from the amorphous state of the environment, and how much more effort and struggle yet to give oneself, to surrender once the individuality has been formed. Few beings consent willingly to make this effort. So life, with its brutal, unforeseen events, obliges men to make it unintentionally, for they cannot do otherwise. And little by little, thy work is accomplished despite all obstacles.